Hey, what's going on, boys? It's Hunter, and welcome back to week 3 of Life Advice with Hunter. First off, I just want to say thank you once again for the amazing support on the last 2 Life Advice videos. Really helps out a ton to let me know that you guys are enjoying this series and that you guys want to see more overall. Also, before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you could go down there, smack that subscribe button. It really helps us understand what you guys want to see from us. And also, please don't bully me too hard in the comments. I've not touched Halo Infinite in a few months, but I decided to reinstall it because the new season is coming and it looks quite good. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into this week's topic, which is the topic of anxiety. So I guess no place better to start than what is anxiety. So anxiety is the feeling of sort of dread. It's also the feeling, it's almost like being afraid is the best way that I describe it to people. And to be honest, a lot of us experience anxiety, whether if we realize it or we don't realize it. Anxiety can come in many different forms. For some people, it's biting their nails, myself included. Some people, it's simply feeling overwhelmed or stressed. For other people, it's literally panic attacks. And no matter what type of anxiety you get, what's important is how do we deal with anxiety and what are the signs? So some people get anxiety simply by doing tasks such as speaking to people. Some people genuinely have a fear of having to speak in front of people, which I more than understand. And for me, a lot of my anxiety comes from this sort of career path that I chose. A lot of my anxiety can kind of come from simply just knowing that I constantly have to be on guard, always trying to be funny, and sort of always having that social media presence. That can be a lot, and it can be sort of very stressful. Some days I wake up and I'm stressed about it. Some days my phone is buzzing and I'm concerned, am I being canceled? Did I do something wrong? Is somebody yelling at me or are people just giving me praise? All those things kind of can all contribute to anxiety. I experience anxiety all the time, especially when I was younger. I experienced it a lot. I constantly felt this sort of dread when it came to school, when it came to work, when it came to this YouTube channel. And the best thing that I can say is you need to first figure out what is causing your anxiety. If it's something as simple as talking with others, it's going to be much harder to figure out a solution to that than simply being able to say, okay, I get anxiety when I'm around these people or I'm in these situations. Unfortunately, there's no way to mitigate our social interaction. We are always going to have to deal with social interaction as humans, especially as Americans. So what do we do once we found what gives us anxiety? Well, we need to figure out with some tactics and some tricks to get over that anxiety. And me specifically, I'll talk about social anxiety. When I was younger, I relatively had a decent amount of social anxiety. I was bullied a lot in school for many different reasons. I was the weird fucking kid that liked Sonic the Hedgehog. And what I can recommend most if you have a social anxiety is to really make sure that you sit down, understand why you're having these social anxieties, and practice on those skills. Let's say that you get really anxious whenever you have to deal with talking in front of others. Practice it. Stand in front of your mirror and just talk to yourself. And trust me, at first you're going to feel like a dipshit, especially if you're standing in your mirror by yourself in your room, right? That's going to feel sort of odd. What can we do to sort of counteract that? Just practice those social skills. Just work on understanding what is and isn't appropriate to say. What do I do when I start feeling this feeling in my chest where I want to scream and cry? What do I do? Because I simply cannot run and hide for my entire life. That doesn't work in the real world, and we need to learn how to counteract those feelings. Another strategy is to talking with others that may also have social anxiety. Sort of get the lowdown of how do they deal with their social anxiety. I used to have bad social anxiety, like I previously mentioned. Currently, I do speeches in front of over 300 people on the daily. And how do I do that? Well, it's pretty simple. What I do is that I simply hype myself up beforehand, and it's also just a lot of practice. I've taught myself that nobody is really looking at you like you think people are looking at you. We kind of have this idea that people are judging us. Guess what, motherfucker? How often do you think about other people when you're in public? When you're listening to people giving speeches, it's probably not that common. Think about every once in a while, somebody may look at you, or you may even look at somebody in public. Guess what? Do you think about that person regularly? No, you forget about that person. You move on from that social interaction. And guess what? People are having those exact same thoughts about you. Everybody thinks about everybody, but nobody remembers one another. Nobody's going to simply judge you based off that you fucking slurred your words while you were up there talking about academic affairs. Nobody is going to notice, and nobody is going to bring it up in the next 5 minutes. That's not going to happen. Unless you decided to go up on stage and make an ass of yourself, but you're most likely not doing that. And also, I think it's important for us to learn social skills and, once again, just have conversations. When are certain conversations acceptable and unacceptable to have? Maybe feel people out, figure out what is and is not acceptable in that. For example, with your friends, you may be able to make 9/11 jokes. I probably wouldn't make those around your boss. Just kind of figure out the environment that you're in. And it's important to kind of be like, all right, nobody is judging me. It's important that I understand that. And that goes for a lot of different types of anxiety. Another one that I've seen a lot of people have online is gym anxiety. As somebody firsthand that goes to the gym almost daily, let me tell you, nobody cares. Nobody really cares who you are, what you look like. This is this big common misconception where people think that people are constantly staring at them and constantly judging them in the gym environment. In 90% of cases, people are not judging you. That's just how we are as humans. We look around. Now, if somebody walks up to you and calls you a fatty, yeah, sure, I understand why that gave you anxiety, why you feel this stress. But truthfully, thankfully, people are not going to truly treat you that way in the gym and in real life. Most people are pretty calm and courteous people in that way, where we understand people have emotions, people come from different walks of life. It's important to understand that, especially in a context where we're dealing with anxiety. This next one is going to be a bit more of a heavy topic. Talk about food anxiety for a minute. Now, this is one that if you're dealing with, I would very much recommend talking to a professional. Don't listen to a dipshit on YouTube. But the thing is that food anxiety is tough. Nobody's going to lie to you and tell you that. What's important is finding a support network and finding people that you can trust. A lot of food anxiety comes from bullying. A lot of it comes from trauma and that sort of environment. So what's important is kind of finding people that you can trust, whether if that's people that you can trust to eat around, people that you can trust that won't judge you for the food combinations that make you feel comfortable. What's important is finding that support group that is going to make you feel comfortable and is not going to go out of their way to harm you or make you feel unwanted in the sort of environment that you need to feel healthy. And also understand that, unfortunately, it's not a healthy lifestyle, and it's important that we make these changes and work towards those goals to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and making sure that the people around us are not being hurt as well. See, overall, I think anxiety is something really tough that a majority of us deal with. But what's important is that understanding what are the signs of it and sort of how do we tackle anxiety as a whole. So I think in general, it helps to talk with people that have dealt with this anxiety. The truth is that a lot of people in your life have probably dealt with some form of anxiety. It's important to sit down and have a conversation with those people and understand the strategies that they do to help cope. For me, a lot of the strategies that I use to cope is to, number one, listen to music or a podcast when I'm feeling in that sort of anxiety state. I think it's important to kind of sit down, relax for a minute, and just kind of tell myself that I don't deserve to feel this way, that I am doing great, and that I will persevere. I think that that's really important, and it's really important to sort of tell yourself that you deserve to be the person that you are, and that there's nobody going to stand in your way to stop that. You are overall an amazing person, and that you have done nothing wrong, and that you are going to continue to fight to deal with these sort of stressors in your life. I would also recommend finding some sort of activity that can keep your mind off of it. For me, I spend a lot of time in the gym. I find it as a place to sort of de-stress and sort of just find myself and just kind of really work on myself. Some people, that's going to simply be watching a TV show, and that is an amazing way to de-stress and sort of try to destroy this sort of feeling of dread and anxiety that is found in our chest. But what is important that we find a positive outlet that we can use to sort of get rid of our stress and work on ourselves and learn to be a better person. And overall, the best kind of advice that I can offer to you is to find your sort of activity. There's not going to be a sort of one fits all. I know a lot of people that use drawing to help them get over anxiety. I use music in the gym. I know people that use, other resources to sort of get themselves over these anxiety slumps. I would also recommend to not use food necessarily. I think that cooking can be an amazing strategy, but please do not use binge eating or any other sort of eating disorder as a way to cope with anxiety. Overall, that's going to lead to more problems down the road, whether if that's health issues or simply getting back on track with your diet. And once again, I just want to reiterate that it's important to sort of find yourself in these sort of ideas and that one solution will not fit all. I can also provide more resources in the description with some of the strategies that I use. I know that a lot of people like to use counting. Another one is video games. Sometimes I haven't really found video games help with my anxiety. I usually find that sort of getting away from those environments sort of actually kind of helps with my anxiety. In my case, it's a little different. A lot of my anxiety sort of comes from these video games. But once again, I think that it's important to sort of find what makes you happy and what helps deal with that stress. Anyways, boys, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it if you made it this far in the video. It just means a lot to me. I'm really happy to be back. Noah's happy to be back. And I just can't wait to give you guys more content. Once again, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. Lets us know that you guys want to keep seeing these videos. Leave a like. Lets me know that you want to keep seeing more of this video specifically. And once again, I just want to say thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful day.